Welcome to something special. Welcome to TEDx. This TEDx event is part of a global conversation that takes place every day in every corner of the world. In schools, in theaters, in workplaces, even in prisons, people gather to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. More than 3,000 TEDx events are held every year in 170 countries. It's a remarkable thing. TEDx events are self-organized under a license from TED, a non-profit organization devoted to discovering and sharing powerful ideas in the form of TED Talks. It's not TED itself, but your local TEDx team of volunteers that has done all the work to put on today's event, including booking all of the speakers. It's this team's ideas, dedication, and time that have made this possible. We really hope today's program sparks an exciting conversation. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you will take out. And now, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to the 2022 TEDxYouth Berwyn event. We are incredibly excited to bring you to our third conference. Now, as we do every year, we started this event by attempting to decide on our annual theme. In our first year, our theme was pushing forward as we learned how to overcome personal and community obstacles. In our second year, we explored the idea of society and self as we dove into the relationship each one of us has with our local and global communities. But this year, we wanted to create a theme that could dive deeper into the issues and experiences that people in Berwyn have. And to do that, we needed to create a theme that could encompass a diverse array of topics, but that could also foster a sense of collaboration and conversation like never before. So this year, we bring to you our 2022 theme, Breaking Barriers. Breaking barriers is all about defying the norms of society. How do we evolve to make the world a more inclusive place? How do we bring new and contemporary ideas even into the most ordinary parts of our lives? This theme is all about impact, change, and celebrating progress. Today we have the opportunity to hear from community leaders and how they've broken barriers of their own. But most importantly, how their stories can inspire you to do the same. I hope you enjoy.
While breaking barriers often takes place on a national or global scale, barriers can also be broken closer to home. Oftentimes, pushing through personal or community-based obstacles is what allows us to form greater connections with those around us. To start off our conference, Kiana Estevez will be discussing how food can form a bridge between oneself and the greater community. Integrating the use of the five senses, Kiana will lead us on a journey that showcases food's ability to heal, love, and connect.
Throughout my life, food has helped me unlock superpowers at the times where I've needed it most. Food breaks down barriers, fuels creativity, heals, and liberates us. It is a basic tool for love. Let's take a step back. There are over 350 spoken languages across the United States today. I believe language and food are completely intertwined. When we welcome the five senses into our food, we access an untapped language, and that language is love. Love is a basic need. It has the power to preserve life and fuel growth. From creation to consumption, we require love in all of its forms for survival. On the other hand, food is also a basic need. We access its healing through nourishment. Food experiences allow us to connect with ourselves on a deeper level, which offers individual healing. With every meal, we access the tools to make necessary shifts with our perceptions of self, community, and our entire ecosystem. Today, I will take us on a journey of the five senses, which are sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste. Then point out how food offered a checkpoint for me each step of the way. I dare you to join me. First, we explore sight. My mother, Kiamara, got a job as a cook at a preschool because it came with the privilege of childcare for me. I saw her single-handedly preparing breakfast and lunch for 150 students, not knowing how to speak a word of the English language. Food offered us the means of survival in disrupting the status quo, building life in the United States as a newly single mother. Food becomes powerful when we use it as a means to communicate with ourselves and those around us. When Kiana chose to bet on life in the US, she left behind a country, a college degree, even a language behind. From seeing her lumping a 50-pound bag of arroz and me yelling, "That's rice! Wait, we have that at home," to then walking in that kitchen and seeing a mountain of brown vegetables that were orange on the inside, Kiana then taught me the word sweet potato in a full state of confusion. For me, I was 3 years old learning to speak English inside of that Head Start kitchen, and we were on that journey hand in hand. Through the power of sight, we were able to connect with food, the English language, and one another. Next, it's the summer of 2000. I'm 4 years old, land in the Dominican Republic by myself, learning to speak Spanish for the first time. Smell and sound define these moments, reminding me that food was a clock you could smell and hear. I take you to my abuela's house. As I wake up, slowly opening my eyes to the sizzling scent of cheese on a frying pan. The smell of my abuela's food offered an instant sense of warmth and safety at a time I was terrified to live in a new place. This is probably why today I'm naturally a morning person. I would then join my abuela for breakfast at the table and spend my mornings outside with the neighbors playing in 90-degree heat. That is the type of heat that makes you forget about time. I never knew when lunch was going to be at until I heard my abuela scream, "Kiana!" to come inside and eat. We would then enjoy mangú con salami, queso frito, y huevos frito. That is a classic mashed plantain with salami, fried cheese, and eggs, topped with sauteed onions, aka the most famous Dominican breakfast. I would smell my abuela's food the moment I stepped through the door. With each meal that we shared, it offered me an energetic connection to my ancestors. I can only describe that as a warm and fuzzy feeling in coming home. With every meal, I was able to take lessons in reclaiming the power of food as a form of nourishment for my body, mind, and spirit. My abuela expressed her love for me simply by cooking and preparing food. What she didn't recognize is that she taught me to embrace the smell and sound of food as a clock to guide me throughout my day. We had the power to create an unspoken language simply by tuning our food experiences with sound, smell, and time. This carries with us to the summer of 2016. As a first-generation American, there's a constant chase to build a legacy for yourself and your family. I take you to my first summer internship at Sarah Beth's Restaurants, a legendary brunch group. It had been a dream commuting into New York City, ticket in hand, waiting on that cold train platform at 5 a.m., even feeling the touch of a stranger's shoulders. One of my first assignments had nothing to do directly with food. It was going back to the basics, the art of table setting. Growing up, setting the table meant grabbing a fork, knife, plate, and napkins if we were feeling fancy for the holidays. At Sarah Beth's, however, a table setting required 3 forks, 2 spoons, 2 knives, and 3 glasses. This internship offered me a vehicle to a form of entertainment I had only experienced through my television screen, and that was watching Gordon Ramsay in the land of fine dining screaming at chefs. There was an anticipation that naturally came with touching utensils before an event would come through. With each dish that I was able to set the table for, it helped me build a connection to food before even seeing a dish on a plate. By helping to build events, it helped me build confidence in expanding my relationship with food experiences simply by touching utensils and setting the table. Finally, taste. When the pandemic hit, it felt as if time stood still. I was working for a leading startup in the restaurant space, had my 20s planned out to a T. Then one Zoom call changed the trajectory of my life, and most importantly, my relationship to food. I was one of 5.5 million industry workers who lost their job. I had no idea how to process this rejection and trauma. I couldn't get out of bed for 2 weeks. It felt as if there was a bag of rice on my stomach. as if all I had built up to this moment in time, including my legacy, had been taken away from me in an instant. Through the language of food, though, I learned there are times in life where your villain can lead you straight to victory. I turned to food to help me process and communicate the emotions that were going on inside of my body at what felt like 100 miles per hour. Through the power of food, I got myself out of bed and began searching for a community of people like me who share a love for food. I was able to connect with over 100 virtual home cooks from underrepresented backgrounds who were willing to share their recipes, experiences, and how their love for food unfolded. Because the pandemic did two things. First, it disrupted food, chefs, and our entire restaurant economy. But it also gave us access to the power of cooking at home with people we may not have had access to. I felt a responsibility to spotlight the love I was seeing on my screen. So I started hosting virtual experiences for people to connect, heal, and communicate throughout the pandemic. One of my most memorable home cooks to this day is Chef Adrian from Panama. He and I have hosted tostones meetups. Tostones are a twice-fried plantain, also described as a crispy, savory, golden coin of deliciousness, and a staple dish in the Dominican Republic. Chef Adrian and I grew up eating tostones differently, but were able to connect on how integral part they were in our upbringings. My mother, Kiamara, has always celebrated our heritage and the food that comes along with it. I can't say the same for myself. Growing up, she would constantly make tostones, but I was ashamed to bring food from home to school because I didn't want to feel like an outsider. Can you blame me? It was easier to bond with friends when I hosted sleepovers in my own home over pizza, chicken tenders, and French fries. Food gives us the power to connect with our story of where we've been and where we're going. When I stepped into the kitchen years later with Chef Adrian and my online community, making tostones, I tasted freedom, healing, connection, and reclaim of a creative innocence that comes with exploring your own culture and language. Today, I'm a food educator, empowering kids to embrace the five senses as they build their own journey with food through the dishes that we create, then taste in the classroom. Whether it's Cuban rice and beans or Mexican tamales. My mother, Kiamara, created a sense of safety and playfulness for me and 150 students simply by the dishes that she prepared for us. Whether it was classic rice dish or even a holiday macaroni and cheese stuffing with sweet potatoes on the side. Food becomes powerful when we use it as a means to communicate with ourselves and those around us. I guarantee when you choose to experience life through food, it inherently becomes the dialect of the local language. There are endless ways to leave our mark on this planet. From our five senses pouring into language, I have a no more powerful GPS to get us there than through the food we eat. And I must admit, my mother Kiamara understood the power of food long before me, just as my abuela and ancestors did before her. It breaks down barriers, fuels creativity, heals, and brings us together. As a bonus, it liberates us from the confines of social constructs and opens the door to a collective freedom. Food is the universal love language and a legacy I'm proud to belong to. Thank you.
Kiana just explored how food influences life and the senses. However, now we will be broadening this to how to slow down and to enjoy our own personal journeys. Our next speaker, Phi Thai-Viet Do, an accomplished salesman turned mindfulness teacher, will be taking us through his own experiences with overcoming the desire to constantly push yourself for bigger and better things. He shows us the importance of slowing down and taking a breath. Slowing down, as we will learn, may just be the key to success.
After being paid for having over 30,000 conversations with strangers, I've learned one thing about myself and about you, something you might not even know. But before I tell you what that is, I want to give you some more context. I've always been someone who's obsessed with more money, more success, more relationships, more health. You can call me what I call myself, an extreme indulger. Like this one time, I was up for over 24 hours straight, working nonstop. And by the end of it, I thought I had enough energy to make the 2-hour drive home. It was a beautiful summer morning. The sun had just risen, and I was driving down this windy highway overlooking a cliffside when my body started to relax and my eyelids started to get heavy. I slowly drifted off to sleep as my car swerved off the road. I woke up, I jolt the car left as it smacks into an embankment, and in slow motion it launches into the air, going upside down and right side up, upside down and right side up, flipping 2 times before smashing onto its tires. I got out of the car, I realized what happened, and I took a deep breath. I shouldn't have gotten in that car, but I truly believed that I could have made it. And this mindset really surprised me because this mindset and attitude to keep going, to keep working, and to keep serving had been the key to all of my success, especially when I was a door-to-door salesman. This mindset even led me to my work in East Africa as a sales consultant, but instead of going from door to door in American suburbia like I was used to, we were going from mud hut to mud hut deep in the countryside of Uganda. We provided affordable solar energy to families who have had to use kerosene gas to light their homes their entire lives. I remember ceilings blackened from soot and heard horrific accidents from candlelight fires. The challenges people faced out there, it made me want to do everything in my power to help. I remember the joys and excitement from villagers when they lit their homes for the first time, knowing they wouldn't have to breathe in toxic fumes anymore. It was those moments that fueled my mindset and attitude to keep serving, to keep going, and to keep working. I mean, if everything felt so rewarding and so fulfilling, why then would there be any reason for me to stop? After Africa, I was invited to consult for another social enterprise, this time in Yangon, Myanmar. And again, I found myself continuing to say yes to more experiences that would give me more money, more fulfillment, more relationships. This habit of continuing to say yes to more would eventually lead me down a series of events that would forever change my life. After spending a week working in a rural fishing village, I had the choice to either travel back to the city of Yangon and get some rest, or take a flight and complete a 50-kilometer trek up and down the Himalayas. I chose to indulge. And not only that, but afterwards, I was invited to perform a fire dance back at a popular venue in the city. Everything spun out of control at the end of that fire performance. When I did my usual spin to whip out my fire and take my bow, I felt this forceful wave of numbing sensations vibrating from my lower back down into both of my legs. Something was wrong. But instead of going home or to a hospital, I didn't want to miss out on more fun. And so I went to go hang out with my friends. And by the time I got there, I was no longer able to walk, stand, let alone sit up straight on my own. Over the course of the next week, I would have to crawl everywhere. A doctor who looked at my MRI scan told me that I have desiccated disc disease and that there is no cure. I was released from my contract at work and told I would have to go back home as soon as possible. From before I can even remember, I'd always been this way, chasing adventure after adventure. I lived my life on one speed, just like how I loved to win in Mario Kart, by never letting go of that accelerator button. I was a door-to-door salesman for about a decade, and I became relentlessly persistent. I learned to press forward, no after no, door after door. And because my mindset operated at a speed greater than what my body was capable of, I achieved incredible results and got great recognition, but at the compromise to the well-being of my body. Being in sales, there's a lot of pressure to produce and to perform. I had quotas, competition, and expectations to meet, and would go through extreme measures to be the best, but lost sight of why that even mattered. And I became so critical of myself because of that. I was humbled, but still hungry to grow. So I went to my favorite resource for new ideas, TED. I downloaded all different kinds of talks that I could listen to while I was running in between doors. And there was one in particular called The Power of Mindfulness, which inspired me to enroll in my first 10-day silent meditation. Now, I thought I had some kind of idea what I was getting myself into, but to be frank, I had no clue how difficult this would actually become. Imagine as if your mind was a car driving nonstop all over the place, and then it was forced to an abrupt stop. For 10 days, I'd be without any device, no book or pen to read or write. It would just be me, my body, and my mind. And like a deep wound finally revealing itself, I saw the true nature of my endlessly wandering mind in its incessant quest for pleasure and satiation. I tell myself, Phi, focus your attention. But my face would be really itchy, or my knees would be hurting from sitting from so many hours. Phi, sharpen your mind. Come back to the sensations on your body. Over and over again, day by day, like an athlete who was working out their body for physical strength, I was working out my mind by gently nudging it back to being present with my body. By the end of the 9th day, those loud desires and distractions settled to become softer, subtler noises. I appreciated this newfound connection I had between my mind and body because I was able to recognize those subtle sensations and if they were associated with pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral emotions. After completing the 10 days, I left my job in sales and decided to take an entire year off. And I pendulum swung from this chasing of money and success to chasing stillness. But I was still stuck in this conundrum of chasing because on one side, I still wanted to feel financially and professionally fulfilled. And on the other, I wanted to have contentment with who I was and with what I had. But because I placed all this pressure and all these expectations on myself, no matter what I did, I'd always end up wanting more. I'd always catch myself back on that one speed chase again. All this to say, there's no right or wrong way to live your life, but do your best to be intentional about all the choices that you make. Stop acting on all your reactions like I did. Take that moment to pause and think to yourself, is this what I really want to be doing? Or am I continuing that endless chase? Am I really being present with my choices? Or am I on autopilot? After 30,000 conversations, the one thing I've learned is that it is easy to keep chasing, but most people don't know when to stop. It took me nearly losing my life to understand. And for you, practice driving you as your own vehicle. I've had to build this own awareness around how it feels especially when that voice in my head tells me that I need to be better. I need to be making more money. I need to be doing more things. And when that voice speaks up, I can now take that moment to pause before indulging. I don't always have to give in to that chase. But if I do, that's my choice. And it is that kind of self-awareness that will help you to be better at making decisions and understanding yourself. So, how do you develop this kind of intuitive wisdom? You can start by creating this habit of continually checking in with how you're feeling, especially in those moments when you're emotional, like when you're having an argument and you feel your face heating up or throat clenching, or when you see someone you love and you experience those euphoric sensations or lightness in your body. I have a fun activity that I invite you to try. Most people tend to use their phones, but I love to carry this small notebook around with me to write down every time I notice that I'm chasing. I write down what triggered it, where it showed up on my body, and how it made me feel. And after years of logging this, themes began to emerge, which presented fun solutions to help me minimize and reframe some of these responses that I thought was automatic. Living in and out of LA over the last 15 years, I'd face heavy traffic as a part of everyday life. And especially when I have to be somewhere, it would make me feel anxious and impatient. And so as a fun solution, I purchased an electric bubble wand that I'd pull out whenever I was stuck in traffic and let the bubbles float out my window as a delight to me and to everybody around me. I took back control of something that used to stress me, and I embraced it. You're always in control too, but you gotta prioritize your practice in strengthening your connection between your mind and your body. Even if it's just for one moment a day. Perhaps that moment is right now to pause and to take a deep breath in and to watch the observing thoughts in your mind settle down into the feeling sensations in your body. If you fall out of practice like I do myself, be kind to yourself and start again. I still have moments where I find myself chasing, but I'm much better and wiser at knowing when to stop. You're going to have to discover that for yourself in navigating the vehicle that is your life. And remember, winning at one speed only works in Mario Kart.
As Phi just explained, it is important to stop and relax amidst the busy schedules that surround us. By doing so, we can learn to appreciate and adjust to different opportunities life may present us with. However, appreciating small and large moments in life also requires us to learn how to overcome small and large obstacles. Our next speaker, Kelli Chu, is here to share her story and perspective on finding your own identity through difficult times and how to convert obstacles into opportunities.
At 21 years old, I was studying abroad in Australia for a year-long program. It was such an amazing experience. Exploring, feeling free, living to the fullest, and meeting so many people from different parts of the world. I was having the time of my life. Until one night changed everything. It was a Saturday night in April, and I was having a blast at a 1950s themed house party. Everyone was laughing, dancing, and of course, drinking. One thing led to another, and I ended up getting into the backseat of a car with a drunk driver. About 30 seconds in, I felt a sharp turn and then blacked out. When I woke up, people were shuffling all around me, touching my body and trying to ask me questions. I was in the hospital. Everything was a big blur, but I remember one doctor approached me and told me they may need to amputate my left hand. But shortly after, I blacked out again. I heard him, but none of it registered. Nothing seemed real. The next time I woke up, I saw both my hands were heavily bandaged. I was like,
whoa. At this point, I knew something bad had happened. I just didn't know what. That first week in the hospital was the worst week of my life. I couldn't move. I was in so much pain. I had so many unanswered questions. And I felt so alone in a foreign country with none of my family or close friends. Eventually, the pieces came together as I learned more about the car accident and my injuries. My left hand was crushed and needed to be reconstructed by taking nerve, muscle, and skin from my right leg. My right hand sustained all the nerve damage and also needed extensive care. I've had a total of 11 surgeries within a 4-year recovery period. And in that time, you bet I had my share of challenges. The loss of hand function and my original goals and plans derailed. I had to withdraw from my study abroad program and cut my experience short. A journey in which I was taking mini trips around Australia, learning a new culture and a different way of living, and gaining more independence and discovering myself. I had to withdraw from my entire school year, which delayed graduation and my move to Los Angeles to pursue an acting career. In addition to that, I was dealing with people staring and saying unnecessary remarks surrounding my newly constructed hands and scars. With these challenges, I've never felt more self-conscious, scared, ashamed, and just a complete failure. It is because we live in a world full of expectations, and I felt pressured daily to meet those expectations. I worried about how I should look, what path or timeline I should be on, who I need to satisfy, make proud, or not let down. The list went on. But also during my recovery, I realized, why not use my challenges, give them purpose, and turn them into fulfilling triumphs? And now, 12 years later, those fulfilling triumphs continue to bring me inner peace and gratitude. So, how did I turn my pain into purpose? By discovering and practicing these 3 powerful mindset shifts. Mindset shift number 1. Instead of believing I have no other choice, know that you have 2 choices. During my recovery, every day was the same. Dealing with the same mental and physical stress over and over. I believe this to be the very essence of my life is over. This is how my life is going to be forever. But whenever I went outside or looked out the window, the sky was different each day. One day the sun would shine, one day the clouds rolled in, one day the sky was blue, one day the sky was gray. Each day was not the same. The world continued to spin and move. And like how the world chooses to show up each day, I realized I had choices too. Specifically, 2 choices. Continue to sit and stew in the pessimistic soup, or move with the world. Move with the flow of time. This meant not looking ahead and believing the circumstances and feelings will remain the same forever, but rather choosing to focus on the present day only, taking it one day at a time, one step at a time, one task at a time. Every day can be and feel different if you choose it to be. Mindset shift number 2. Instead of saying, why me? Ask, why not me? With the loss of hand function, I needed to relearn doing daily tasks such as getting dressed or using utensils. It's the most frustrating feeling when your brain already knows how to complete a daily task, but your hands do not anymore. One time, it took a good 5 minutes to slide my jeans on and try to button them until I needed to ask for help. And my hands no longer knew how to hold a knife and fork in order to cut food. Someone always needed to cut up my food for me, as if I was a toddler. I hated asking for help with tasks so simple. To me, it meant losing a huge part of my freedom. So,
I kept thinking and saying to myself, why me? Why did this happen to me? A specific daily task I struggled with and cried about for a long time was simply putting my hair up in a ponytail. I have very long and thick hair, and there was no way I was going to cut it and allow this to be taken from me as well. So I asked, why not me? I can do this. I can figure out a way. This motivated me to focus on my healing. I attended every occupational therapy appointment, did my hand exercises every day, practiced moving my fingers in different ways, tried and failed some more, until I found a solution and succeeded in putting my hair up in a nice tight ponytail. So, turning around the question and asking, why not me? And then giving your challenge meaning by asking, what is this teaching me? Results in determination and finding solutions. There is always a valuable lesson in any challenge. What is your challenge teaching you? Maybe it's to build physical or mental strength. Perhaps it's to become resourceful and creative, to pave a new path, to become a new version of yourself, or simply to become better than who you were before. Mindset shift number 3. Instead of thinking, I'm alone in this, begin to be intentionally curious. The way I took action to be curious was simply telling my story little by little and comfortably showing my scars or injuries in public. This created relatable conversations and story swaps. I also celebrated my little wins, asked questions, and reached out for help. When I did this, I saw a clear domino effect. The more connections I made with others, the more awareness spread. When helpful advice was given and received, more growth happened in building communities, which only normalized everyday challenges and life's low points. Everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has a challenge to overcome. By practicing to accept what it is and being vulnerable enough to share your story and struggles, you realize and highlight the fact that we're never really alone. There is support in all shapes and forms out there. The key is to celebrate your truth while continuing to be wholeheartedly curious. With these mindset shifts, I began to feel more aligned and confident with my most authentic self. So I encourage you to practice these mindset shifts as well, because then these transformational shifts are what build your most powerful journey, going from point A to point B, from pain to joy, the growth and lessons gained along the way, learning how to embrace your new identity. This transformational journey, your authentic journey, is your superpower. No one else has your journey, so no one else has your superpower. And when you choose to actively recognize your superpower and own it proudly each and every day, you break those barriers set upon you. Overpowering existing expectations, or what I like to call society's spotlight, is done by shining your own spotlight back at it. So go out into the world with all your superpower might and shine bright.
Before intermission, we heard Kelli talk about the complex yet rewarding process that many of us take to discover our purpose through our personal obstacles and challenges. Carolina Rial, a singer-songwriter and a contestant on the 20th season of The Voice, will be discussing how to navigate the complex world of social media. Pulling from her experiences of being thrown into the spotlight at only 16 years old, she shows us how to break through social media's invisible world. Along with her talk, Carolina will deliver a special performance that spreads a message of motivation and inspiration.
2020, a year that the world completely shut down. Many people across the nation were scared, confused, conflicted, and unhappy. I had no idea what my next step was going to be. I'm a musician. I'm an entertainer. I do music for people. What was I going to do without a crowd? I felt this huge cloud of darkness surround me, and it was holding me back from moving forward as an artist. Let me bring you back to the beginning. On December 31st, 2019, myself, along with so many others, were beyond excited to ring in the new year, as this new year would be the beginning of a whole new chapter, a whole new decade where I could decide what amazing things I wanted to do with my life. I couldn't wait to embark on this new journey, as in this new decade, I would be experiencing parts of one's life we dream of as kids. I'd be turning 18, I'd be going to college, I'd be graduating college, but most importantly, I had goals for music I planned to go for as soon as that calendar read January 1st, 2020. When the pandemic hit in March, however, every move I planned to make was gone. And the worst part of it all was that I wasn't in control. Everything in my music career up until that point in my life had been in my hands. Every success was determined by actions I chose to make. Now when I had been more ambitious than ever, something I couldn't possibly control was holding me back. For a few months after that, I felt helpless. I've always been a very eager person. I go for opportunity before it comes to me. I don't wait for my ship to come in, I go out and sail to it. But for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like swimming in any waters. When the summer came, however, I had received a direct message over Instagram from a casting producer. She happened to be with NBC's hit singing TV show, The Voice, a show I had dreamt of being on since the first season aired back in 2011. Now, at the time, I had been so over this pandemic, I didn't even feel like submitting an audition video. But I did. Because that's what the little voice in me does best. Even in times where I physically, emotionally, cannot do anything, there's always been a little part of me that's pushed myself to be my own cheerleader, even in times where the world is completely shut down. A couple weeks go by, and I'm in a production session over Zoom with a producer. I get a phone call from a Los Angeles number. Now, when I'm working on anything related to my music, I always set aside my phone to focus on what I'm working on. So naturally, I ignored the call and planned on giving her a call back afterwards. I kid you not, 3 seconds later, I get a text message from this woman saying, "Hey, it's so-and-so, I just gave you a call. Please give me a call back ASAP, very important." So I quickly told my producer, "Hey, can we cut this short today and pick up tomorrow? I have this weird phone call coming in." Anyone who knows me really well knows that I would never set aside a phone call for something as valuable as studio time. But I had to. Something in me told me that this was going to be really good news. So I ran upstairs, and while sitting next to my mom, I gave the casting producer a call back. And that's when she told me that I had been selected to fly out to Los Angeles to audition for the 4 coaches on the world-famous Voice stage. Never in my life did I think I would be getting that call that so many musicians dream of for years. And in that moment, I realized that sometimes the most incredible things can happen in times when you'd least expect it to. I was just this 16-year-old girl with dreams so big, I couldn't wait to chase after them. Things actually started to look like they were going back in place for me. My name is Carolina Rial. I'm 18 years old. I'm a singer, songwriter, and performer with nothing but love for what I do. Music has inspired me my entire life and has changed my life in numerous ways. With that being said, let me fast forward to when my life really flipped upside down. When I was flown out to Los Angeles to film The Voice, I had no idea what to expect. From the time I had landed to the time I stepped on that stage, it had been pure work and lots of stress. I never really thought out how taxing this could be on anyone, yet here I was at 16 years old, a junior in high school, somebody who had half the experience of some of the other adult contestants on the show. When I started working on the show, the constant moving around and rehearsals and so on was draining. Not only physically, but more than anything, mentally. It was a feeling I had never felt before or expected to feel. Yet the love and passion I had for this and for my music was pushing me past limits I was too scared to cross before. When the day came to audition, however, everything paid off. And I mean everything. Moments before my audition, I had been nervous like never before. But I get on that stage, I sing a Sam Smith song called Stay With Me. And less than 30 seconds in, I see John Legend turn his big red chair, and then I see Nick Jonas do the same. And in that moment, I had felt like I had finally reached a place where I was fully happy, and nothing could take that away from me. Not the pandemic, not my nerves, not my anxiety, nothing at all. Now you may be questioning why I'm telling you this story. I'll tell you why. Notice how I said nothing could take away from my happiness. Nothing really could, but the part that we were all forgetting as contestants on the show was that when this airs on TV, there's going to be talk, there's going to be opinions, there's going to be millions of people that hear about me, but most importantly, my voice. My biggest enemy was about to be social media. Now, when we look at social media, we see something that's changed this world drastically. It's torn people down, it's built people up, it's created entire careers for people, especially in my industry. Now, I've been exposed to crowds of people on the internet before and have faced hate and differing opinions, but nothing could compare to what I was about to face when my audition was going to be aired for over 15 million people. I was scared nonetheless. I didn't want anything to take away from my happiness and from what I truly love to do the most, which is music. A single dislike or comment can completely ruin somebody's life. And as dramatic as that sounds, it's 100% true. We live in a generation where young people like us are especially targeted online. A single post can completely tear somebody down. If you ever wonder why your parents seem so strong or your older aunts and uncles seem so resilient, A, it's because they've been through life, but B, it's also because they grew up in a generation where not everything relied on a like or a dislike or a comment on Instagram. None of that. And that's why we're so affected by it. I remember when my audition aired March 2nd, 2021. I was so excited to see how people were going to react to it. But as soon as it went live, I received hate comment after hate comment, and I had never been more scared for my little teenage self. Music was what kept me going. My voice is what I used to lift me up in times when I had felt so low. Yet I started to envision people not appreciating my artistry. It was hard, but I had to learn that with good comes bad, and to focus on the good, because we don't need other people to tell us what we love to do. If you truly love something and are passionate about it, keep at it. As cliche as it may sound, keep at it. If you're passionate about something, you won't let anything get in the way of that. I'm so glad that I kept on going, even in times where I felt not even my voice could save me. As the younger generation in this world, who has yet to experience so much of life, how do we learn to take control of our lives with social media constantly influencing us all around? Set short-term and long-term goals. Some may be realistic and some may not be. But keep in mind that a majority of the time, social media can be deceptive. Figure out ways that work best for your mental state to reach these goals. This could be a certain style, a certain pace, anything in general. Remember who you are. You are you, and nobody could take that away from you. You are valuable, you are worthy, and you have so much in you that you don't even know of yet. We're so young and there's so much ahead of us, so don't stop because you never know when an opportunity is going to come to you. In my case, I had been watching The Voice since I was 11 years old and auditioning since forever. Yet the opportunity came to me when I didn't even plan on submitting a video that year. Accept the person that is you and own it. Take the time to explore and find yourself as a young individual, then claim it. I'm so thankful for the hateful comments because those are the ones that pushed me to do even greater things. Break any barriers that come your way. And remember why you started to do what you love. Train yourself to shut down rude commentary and block out negative feedback online almost instantly. Learn to love what you do regardless of what others say. Remember that anything that comes your way, you are in control of what you decide to do with it. Are you going to let it hold you back? Or are you going to keep on moving forward? It's up to you. Know that you can do anything you want in this life. Never forget that. And most importantly, I'll leave you with this. Don't be afraid to dream big, because what if it comes true?
Close my eyes and I could see a world that's waiting for me, that I call my own. Through the dark, through the door, through where no one's been before, but it feels like home. They could say it all sounds crazy. They could say I've lost my mind. I don't care, so call me crazy. We can live in a world that we design, 'cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make. There's a house we can build. Each room inside is filled with things from far away. Special things I compile, each one there to make you smile on a rainy day. They could say it all sounds crazy. They could say I've lost my mind. I don't care, so call me crazy. Run away to a world that we design, 'cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make.
Through her talk and performance, Carolina demonstrated the importance of finding your voice on social media and gave us some inspiration to do just that. However, the motivation to succeed and to have your ideas heard is important in a different type of mindset, an entrepreneurial one. Dylan Gambardella and Justin Lafazan, Forbes 30 Under 30 honorees, will be discussing the steps needed to achieve and use this mindset as a guide to personal and professional success.
How do some people find success seemingly in all areas of life, while others struggle to pursue meaning and impact? What separates the world's greats from the rest of the pack? We believe the secret lies in thinking like an entrepreneur. Justin and I have spent the last decade meeting with thousands of the world's greats, from Mark Cuban to Carly Kloss, Oprah Winfrey to Shaquille O'Neal, and understanding what makes them tick. The secret is they are all thinking like entrepreneurs. But what most people don't realize, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to think like one. For these last 10 years, Justin and I have put together a playbook that can help all young people, students, professionals, and founders find success at work and in life by cultivating an entrepreneurial mindset. And today, we're going to share with you the 8 simple momentum steps for how you can start to put that into practice in your own life. First up, making relationships number 1.
Well, thank you everybody for having us. Making relationships number 1 was the beginning of Dylan and I's journey as young entrepreneurs. When we were both in high school, we were trying to think about how do we have the most success possible in our personal lives, in our relationships, in health, in well-being, and of course, in the area of business. And when we were in high school, we just didn't know so many people who were also asking these same questions. And given that life is so much about connections and building those interpersonal relationships, we knew the first step was for us to get out there. So we started cold calling and cold emailing and saying, hey, we're in high school, we're looking to meet any other people in the world who are thinking about life the way we are. And what we started to do is found people who were so excited about what they were doing. And we would say, hey, tell us, meet with us, let me buy you coffee, let's have a bagel, and let's talk about how you are approaching your life. And we started building all these relationships. And it was absolutely incredible. And it was rewarding for Dylan and I to start to get knowledge through the arena of building interpersonal connections.
Now that we had these relationships flowing, the next step, the second momentum core value, was to outwork others, to put in the work and bring this to life. For us, we had the $1 billion idea to host an event. If we could put the work in to bring together this community of young innovators and entrepreneurs, what would be possible? Fast forward, we actually were able to put off an event. Now, maybe the worst produced event of all time, but it did not matter because we put in the heart, the blood, the sweat, the tears. We got our family involved, spent a year convincing people to join us for the event. And that was the work that allowed us to really, for the first time, form a community and get in the game. It wasn't easy. It took a lot of effort, but that's how we made our dream possible.
The third step in our momentum methodology, our playbook for how do you develop this entrepreneurial mindset to have success wherever you are, in school, in politics, in academics, in science, in business, wherever you are, it's the same playbook. The third step is motivating yourself to grow just 1% each day. Now for Dylan and I, we hosted this event and it was a success in many ways and a total failure in many other ways. But the idea was that, okay, we're now in the game, we're moving, how do we just get a little bit better each day? And the math is pretty simple. If every day we get a little bit better, we start to get this exponential curve, this compounding of success. So our next big idea after we had the event, Dylan and I, huge brainiacs over here, we got together and we said our next $1 billion innovation, we should start a Facebook group. It was one of the biggest ideas of all time, but it was 1% better. So we started the Facebook group. We said, anybody who came to the event, anybody who just have heard about us, let's all get together. We had the relationships and get in Facebook so we can start to help each other.
So now that we had this Facebook group, we basically were able to retire as billionaires because we had built it all, right? Wrong. We had just gotten started with that 1% growth. Now, we were not the only Facebook group out there in the community. We were actually one of millions probably. So we said, we can't just do what everybody else expects us to do. No, we have to exceed expectations. And that is the fourth core value in momentum. Exceed expectations. For us, that meant responding to and replying to every single comment that came in the group. A few years later, before we made our first full-time hire of a community manager, Justin and I did the math, and in 4 years' time, we had responded to 20,000 comments individually. What that looks like on a day-to-day basis was being addicted to our phones. Whether in class or maybe under the dinner table, we'd be on Facebook responding. Friends would tell us, stop texting. We said, no, we're working. We're exceeding expectations because you cannot do what others expect you to if you expect to have extreme results in life. No matter what you are chasing, as a student, as an entrepreneur, as a professional, if you do these same inputs, you will receive these same outputs. We did not want to be the average ones. We wanted to exceed our results, and that took exceeding expectations from the start.
So we're a few years into our journey, and we're starting to piece together this momentum methodology. How do you think like an entrepreneur to have success at work and have success at your life? And we get to the N in momentum, which stands for never stop learning. The big idea is that as you get in the game and as you go, you're going to be shown new data, and you're going to have new experiences that are going to inform where you should go next. You want to, of course, make the best decision you can in this moment. But as you get to the next moment, you're going to be smarter. And when you know better, you got to do better. So Dylan and I started seeing from this Facebook group, from this event, from the story of Next Gen unfolding, people really liked the opportunities that we were able to share with our community. We were finding speaking gigs and press and internships and full-time jobs that we were just curating for the network that was slowly unfolding and starting to build. So N, never stop learning, we said, hey, how are other people starting to curate opportunities throughout a network or throughout a community? So we had our next innovation, which was another billion-dollar idea. We started a newsletter on top of the Facebook group, on top of the event. And this newsletter every week for now 10 years later, but at the beginning, 1 Monday, 2 Monday, 3 Monday, we would share opportunities. And then we would learn and look at the data every week and say, hey, this opportunity got a lot of clicks. People really love this one. People are reaching out about this one. And then we started to iterate and add more. So the N, never stop learning, is when you're in the game, open your eyes and pay attention to the experiences and the data, and don't be afraid to pivot and to adjust course. So the story kept unfolding, and the story continues.
As we got in the game, we were applying these 1% improvements, exceeding expectations, making relationships number one, putting in the work. We're learning every single day. We bring it together by taking complete ownership, the T in momentum. Taking complete ownership means that the buck stops with me. I know that I want to bet on myself. I want to bet on Justin, myself, our team to get it done. We don't want to put our fate in the world. And so for us, that meant to build a team, build an organization that we could power through together. That we said, we know the next generation needs some help to think like an entrepreneur, to achieve success at work and in life. Let's take that responsibility ourselves. That also means that when things go wrong, we take the full responsibility. It's not just when the good of life hits you. Sure, you get to celebrate those wins, but also look at any failure as an opportunity to get better. We welcome that data point. We welcome whatever the outcome is, knowing that it will help influence and grow for the future. Taking complete ownership is a way to live life, and while daunting when you first hear it, it actually is rather freeing, knowing that it's up to us. Our success, what we want in life, our goals, our dreams, our mission, that's on our shoulders. And I want to bet on us every single day.
When you're thinking like an entrepreneur, you're in the game, you're taking ownership, you're building relationships. If you don't understand your why, really understand at the core why you're doing what you're doing, when roadblocks hit you, you're not going to understand how to react. So the U in momentum, in this playbook of how do you think like an entrepreneur to get what you want, to have success at work and at life, is to really understand your why. Dylan and I knew really deep down what we wanted to be doing and building with our business. Regardless of if we were using events or Facebook groups or newsletters, and eventually we added other products and services, at the core, we knew we wanted to help young people find success at work and at life. And we knew the big idea of what we were building was that you can have momentum in your journey, in your life, if you think like an entrepreneur. So when COVID hit and we had to react and pivot in our business and think about how do we get to the next level, we were able to see big opportunities and take advantage of a rising tide because we understood the why of what we were doing. We knew our mission to the core of helping young people. So now if the world goes online and we can't do events, well, maybe we can get together and say, how can we now use this opportunity to reach 1 billion new young people who we otherwise wouldn't have been able to reach before? So when you're thinking like an entrepreneur, regardless of where you are in your life, you want to understand who you are, what you value, and why you're on the mission that you're on. You're going to be working really hard. You want to know deep down, are you climbing the right mountain and where are you aiming in the end of the day?
Now that you have your compass pointed, you're taking ownership, you're following the first 7 momentum core principles. The final one brings it all together. The last M, make it about the long game and enjoy the journey. Justin and I have been doing this for a decade now, and we hope to for a long, long time to come. The longest game that we'll play, it's not the sales call. It's not that one-off event. It's our lives. And we want to build a meaningful, impactful, fulfilling life. When we make decisions, when you think about your ultimate vision for your life, you don't want to win today, you want to win over that entire duration. That means taking a long-range approach and not letting the day-to-day sacrifice what you know to be true, your integrity, your own core values. And it's also important to enjoy that process. We need to have fun. We need to live that journey every single day. There's no making it for us. At NextGen HQ, that manifests every day. We get up, we say TGIM, thank goodness it's Monday, because we get to do this. We choose every single day to live the life of our dreams, to enjoy the process, to trust that we are on a journey and that we are making it in the now.
So Dylan and I are in the game. We've been in the game for 10 years now. We're having a great time. We're building and we're learning, and every day we're trying to help young people, the next generation, develop this entrepreneurial mindset so they can really have some momentum and win at work and win at life. Now that you've taken this playbook, this methodology, and you're going to apply it to your own life, whether you're 13 or 23 or 33 or 43, whether you're not sure what you want to do with your life, or you have an internship, or you have a job, or you're in your career, regardless of where you are, you can develop this entrepreneurial mindset to go. But it starts with just getting started. If you're not in the game, you're going to have no shot. But if you're in the game, you're on our team, and we'd love to hear your story, because all of us are creating our own futures together, and that's what thinking like an entrepreneur is all about. So we wish you only the best of luck. Develop that entrepreneurial mindset, get in the game, and as we like to say, if you do that, now that's momentum. Thanks for having us here, and we look forward to hopefully meeting everybody in person soon.
We just heard from Dylan and Justin on one type of mindset that is key in building your own success and breaking down personal barriers. In our next talk, Claire Miller, a leader in the field of education, will talk to us about another type of success, one that transpired in her own community. She asks us to see clearly how we live in our communities and explores how to break the barrier between the school and the community.
When I first stepped into that 3-story brick building that spanned half a city block, I was charged up, passionate about the idea that this school, the school the city had labeled a failing school, was actually full of strength and opportunity. I stepped into the school as a new assistant principal with conviction about the role a teacher can play to change a student's life. With just me and my team, I genuinely believed that our hard work together would be enough to overcome all of the barriers our students faced in our Southside Chicago high school. In my inexperience and naive belief in the school system, I thought that turnaround would happen from within the walls of the school building. Lucky for me, I was surrounded by community leaders who challenged me and pushed me to realize that true school change can only happen when we stop thinking all of the answers for change will come within the walls of the school building. Leaders pushed me to see that. Leaders like Julio. Julio was our school security guard, a fixture of positivity every morning at the front door. Students and parents alike would stop to share a story or laugh with him as they walked into the school building. Meanwhile, I walked by him and hardly said hello. I walked right past him yet again when I went to the front door to promote a school event, a parent night where they could come out to learn about how the college admission and financial aid process may be different based on their immigration statuses. I made flyers to promote the event and passed them out to countless parents. But those flyers only served to promote my ignorance. The team had planned the event for a Wednesday night in our huge auditorium, and when just 7 parents came to fill over 500 seats, I was undeterred. I thought, let's just change the night of the week for the event. And so I made new flyers and went right back out to that front door, figuring that a different night of the week is all it would take to bring out more parents. It was on the second attempt I looked over and saw Julio again, chatting fluently in Spanish and English with many parents. We locked eyes and he smiled and waved as he always did, but that was all. After my second failed attempt to make this parent night happen, I went back to that front door and asked Julio for his help. Julio, can you help me get more parents to this event? It's essential that they get this information. His question back to me changed the way I see schools and communities to this day. He challenged me and asked, why do you keep trying to get them to come to you? Why don't you go to them? That deceptively simple question held transformative power for me as a school leader. It had the power to change my paradigm. I was always trained as a school leader that if we just worked hard enough in the building, we could figure it out. Julio pushed me to see differently. He went on to tell me that the Latinx community in our school deeply valued their faith, and that they spent a great deal of time at the Catholic Church in our neighborhood, attending services, events, and classes there. He encouraged me to reach out to the priest and ask how I could get more involved. And I did just that. The priest invited me to attend an event in their church for undocumented families. Humbled by this invitation, I quietly went to the back of the room that night and watched as families flooded into that space, bringing with them their children and their fears, their hopes and their anxieties. The priest invited a lawyer to come up to the front of the room first to explain to families their rights as undocumented citizens. As I sat and listened to what the lawyer had to say, I was reminded of just how many barriers our parents overcame simply to get their students to our school on time. As the lawyer was finishing answering her questions, I saw a priest motioning for me to come forward and introduce myself. Stepping to the front of the room and out of my comfort zone, I clumsily introduced myself as their assistant principal and offered to answer any questions they might have about how their citizenship status may affect their students' college admissions or financial aid process. Just a few shy hands went up in the room at first, but soon I was deep in conversation with families, working together with them to make sure that all of their students had the opportunity to get to and through college. While that evening was laced with real fear and anxiety, that night was also full of real connection and community strength. After that, it was different for me at the front door of the school. Parents now walked up to Julio and to me, sharing everything from their favorite recipes to the hopes for their children. And then flyers weren't necessary. A few parents told me they had the cell phone numbers for pretty much every other parent. And then they told me where they got together to connect and celebrate their students. From the local YMCA to the mosque to the park across the street, the community started opening up in front of me the more I walked around and saw its strength. I found out that a restaurant 1 block up from our school was owned by a student's father. I learned that across the street in that park, many of our students played basketball every day with their uncles and cousins there. And if I walked far enough, I could always find a group of abuelas sitting on their porch, offering me a kind word or a cold drink whenever I walked by. The more I saw the community as a part of the school, the more I realized just how much was possible with our students. I started going to community events with a new intention: to break down the barriers between our school and our community, to ask community members what was their dream for their students, and to collaborate with the community as we all worked together to help our students achieve their dreams. With that, and on that journey, I met people like a journalist for the Southwest Herald at a summer park event who was eager to publish our students. I connected him to our freshman writing teacher who was struggling to invest our students in the writing process. They worked together to create a student op-ed section of that Herald newspaper. And I will never forget the look on our students' faces when they saw their names in print. I worked with the Iman, or the Inner City Muslim Action Network, who had an incredible legacy of community organizing in our neighborhood, and worked with them to create teacher sessions at their center so that our teachers could learn all of the resources available to them in the neighborhood. These sessions brought out teacher conversation where they shared with Iman staff how difficult it was to cater to all of the different interests of our students. And that conversation brought collaboration. The Iman staff graciously agreed to come into our school and teach our students all types of things, from the arts to public speaking to community organizing. And once the community realized just how open our school doors were, they kept coming in, including a group of our local entrepreneurs who collaborated with another one of our teachers on a Shark Tank unit, which culminated in our students pitching business ideas to a panel of our city's entrepreneurs. Our students could win seed money or earn internships through that pitch competition, and we watched their investment in their education skyrocket as they realized all of us, the school staff and the community leaders, all wanted to see them succeed. Within 1 year, our school went from a failing school to having a full turnaround. The results were so impressive. One day I got a call from an official from the school district of Chicago. That official asked me over the phone, how did I accomplish this turnaround in such a short period of time? My answer, I did not accomplish this. We did. Now, this may seem like one heartwarming story from the South Side of Chicago, and it is. But there's research that shows that that story can be replicated. Sarah McAllister, a senior researcher at the Annenberg Institute of School Reform, has done research on that very dynamic. And she has found that when schools and communities come together, students have transformative outcomes, from their academic achievement to the rigor of their courses to their social-emotional development. More impact happens when the schools and communities partner together. But not only that, she also found through her research that the impact is the same across many types of schools, regardless of a student's age, background, or story. And so my hope is by now you're wondering, how can I accomplish this in my own school community? And here would be my advice to you. First, take a look around your school and ask yourself, what turnaround do you want to see in your school? And then walk out the doors of your school and down the sidewalk. Get to know people in your community and ask them if they want to see the same turnaround. Ask them to collaborate. And as you walk down the street together, ask them, how can we break down this barrier together?
As we conclude this event, it's important to reflect on what these talks mean for us. Sure, we sat here and listened to speakers of all backgrounds and experiences, but what do we do from here? Oftentimes, it's easy to leave feeling inspired, but not energized to take action. However, I encourage you to reflect on what these talks mean for you. How do these ideas relate to issues that you are passionate about? How can you use these stories and your passions to put your own ideas into action? Our team always lives by one rule: leave a community better than what it used to be. We hope you'll join us in adopting this mission as we continue to use storytelling and conversations to make an impact in our community. And finally, we want to thank everyone that's helped make today possible. Thank you to our speakers for bringing your stories and ideas to our stage. Thank you to our sponsors for backing us throughout this entire process. And thank you for being an amazing community to be part of our conference. Thank you.